day, Rabbi sold I to the merchant ships. Minutes after they took I from the bottomless pit, but my hand was made strong by the hand of the Almighty. We forward in this generation triumphantly. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? 'Cause all I ever have, redemption songs, redemption songs. Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Have no fear for atomic energy, 'cause none of them can stop the time. How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Ooh, some say it's just a part of it. We've got to fulfill the book. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? 'Cause
Yes, so shalom, shalom. Good morning unto all of our viewers and our listeners from wheresoever you may find yourself spread across the four corners of this globe. We thank the Almighty for yet another opportunity that He has granted unto us to be able to be alive and to make the best out of our lives whilst we are still breathing. We bless Elohim for another day that He has made. We thank Elohim for how far He has brought us. We thank Elohim for how He has kept us. We thank Him for the breath of life. We thank Him for our family members and our loved ones. We thank Him for those of us who have glad tidings, and we pray and hope that Elohim may keep the souls of those that are going through difficult times. We all know, just like the great King Mufasa said to his son, we are all partakers of this great circle of life, meaning there are ups and downs, there are good times and bad times, there are moments when you feel strong, and there are moments when you feel down. Some are being born, others are dying, some are black, others are white. Some are rich, others are poor. This is the great duality of life. There is light and there is darkness. But the constant thing that will never change is the unchangeable fact that Elohim is both master of the living and of the dead. So we thank Elohim for His great mercy that He's shown towards us. And we pray and hope that wheresoever you are, that peace may be extended unto you. And if there is no peace, may Elohim grant you that peace, that whatsoever you are going through, be it a good time or a bad time, that you may never let loose or that you may never let go of hope, because hope is the only thing that you have left. The moment you stop believing, the moment you lose your hope, that is when the end is come. So we bless you once again, dear people, for tuning in. And we are looking forward to what we will deal with today. So maybe let us go to the first slide in itself. So we have started with the theme of Black History Month. I think we started 2 weeks ago, where we first dealt with, what was the first one?
The Israelites, the importance of the Israelites.
So we first dealt with the very importance of the nation of Israel in itself. And then we looked at the color of these people. I think it was the brother had around 70 slides. 70 slides dedicated only to the very color of the people. And to some people, it is so strange. Like when we bring up all these verses, men don't understand, like, how is this possible? Have we been reading things wrong? And that is what the Bible says, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And because it is History Month, we don't call it Spiritu Month, because it is History Month, you see that we are bringing Bible verse and we are bringing secular sources. And the secular sources, for your information, people, it is not for us. We believe the Bible, and we already believe when we had no source. So now that we have the sources is for you unbelievers. Those of you who claim to be spiritual, but when we show you something from the Bible that does not fit your ideology, all of a sudden you say we are misinterpreting stuff. That is why this month we are coming with crazy sources, and not of our own. Maybe from the percentage of all the sources that are being referenced, maybe 5% is of the black man, because we know the black man will not be believed. And about 95% of it is coming from your own European, Ashkenazi, white scientists and historians. So today we will focus on the topic, the Bantu. And I'm wondering how we will manage, because I think we have about, how many slides? I think we have about 91 slides. About 91 slides, and almost every slide has a reference. Just for you to see that you have been living under a cave. Because where are these references coming from? Just for you to see that once you have entered the algorithm of your life, because there is not only an algorithm of YouTube, there is also an algorithm of your life. And if the algorithm of your life is focused on the wrong things, the only feed you will get is based upon the madness that your algorithm is focused on. It's just like when you people have Netflix. I have Netflix, my wife has Netflix, my friends have Netflix. You will see that my Netflix and that of my wife, even though we are the same person, the feed she gets on her Netflix is different from mine. She only has the romantic and the cooking stuff. I have madness on my Netflix. It's because the feed that I'm giving it is what it is giving back to me. So we have been able to collect all these sources is because you have to be connected with the right algorithm. And that is why we have told you a long, long time ago, if you don't know who the people are, that's the issue. If you don't know who the Israelites of the scripture are, you will have no navigation with regards to where to look. If your focus is on the Ashkenazim and Europe, the type of madness you will get on your feed. But if your focus is on the people of the book and you understand their perspective, you will also get another feed. So for the case that you're wondering, where are these people getting these things from? It is because we have been able to identify the people. That is why prophecy upon prophecy, everything is lining up. And you will see today when we come with another layer of proof. I remember it was years ago, I was speaking to my brother and I told him like, this thing with the Hebrews, it is so ridiculous to the point where it is impossible to deny the fact, because we can come your way with Bible verses alone. No reference, no other sources, just the Bible references alone. We will show you that they were people of African stock. They were people of color. We can show it to you with the Bible alone. But even if you take aside the Bible and you go to the secular sources, we will still show you that the people of the book were Africans or they were black. If we then, that's the second layer. If we then take away the layer of external sources and we go simply into culture and traditions, we will still show you who the people of the book are. And if you take away the third layer, which is the traditions and culture, and we go into language, which is the fourth layer, we will still show you who the people of the book are. If you take away the fourth layer, which is language, and we go into history and what the Bible said that the people of the book would go through, and you compare it to the Bantus, once again, you will see who the people are. So from every layer imaginable, we can show you who the people are. So therefore, this will be another of such segment. To those who are blessed to see, we will show you wonderful things. And to those that are still hardened in their heart, maybe it is not for you. So let Elohim do his thing and we will see how far we will go. So the introduction, please.
We often misconstrue the term black or black people without understanding the nuances that exist within the spectrum of blackness. For the lack of effort and sometimes understanding from our parts, we often try to lump people together by their skin color only. This designation of classifying people by their skin color is a racist premise with detrimental effects to mankind. In reality, mankind should be classified based on more elements than skin color alone. We should consider one's color, one's sex, culture, and a whole plethora of other dynamics before we can truly determine who is who in the grand scheme of things. This misconstrued approach to the classification of people is especially evident in the continent of Africa. Africa genetically has the most diverse gene pool than the rest of the world combined, amongst which tribes you will find the origins of all the nations of the world. Hence why Africa is known as the motherland or the cradle of humankind. For today's history lesson, we will take a special interest in one of the children of Mama Africa. We will focus on the Bantu people, their origin, history, trials, and prophecies. We are told that the origin or homeland of the Bantu is generally believed to be near the border of Nigeria and Cameroon. But how did they end up in Nigeria and Cameroon? Did they fall out of the sky, or did they spring up from out of the ground? Or did they migrate there from somewhere else?
So that's the introduction for you. We will show you these things. I heard the brothers were talking and the sisters were talking on the radio and stuff. What is the Bantu? What does that mean? Where do they come from? I don't know. They're only in the West. When you go towards the East, we can't find them, and all manner of things. And all manner of things. But we will cover all of that today. So the very table of content, please.
We'll look at the Israel's migration to Egypt. We'll look at the origin of the Bantu, the migration of the Bantu. We'll look at Abyssinia and Negro land. We'll look at the Limba and Zulu of South Africa and Zimbabwe. We'll look at the Bakongo people and the Luba people of the Kingdom of the Congo. We'll look at the Fang and the Beti people of Cameroon and Gabon, the Gikuyu of Kenya, the Akan people, the Gadame of Ghana and Ivory Coast. We'll look at the Igbos and the Yorubas of Nigeria, the Bani Israel and Mandinga of Benin and Senegal, the general Bantu customs and traditions, the religion of the Bantu prior to Christianity, the punishments of the Bantu, and the redemption of the Bantu, and then a conclusion.
So people, we have tried to keep it concise. These are not all the tribes. And that's the thing. Once you find the sweet spot, the evidence is endless. So the Bible says Elohim did good in that he did not leave himself without a witness. So seek and you will find. But this is just for the sake of providing context. Because at a certain point, I had to stop because of time. So we thank Elohim, and these are the things we will cover. Some slides I will take more time, others I will skip altogether, others we will take it in a shortened version. Yeah, so these are the things. So let us commence. Yeah, so Israel's migration into Egypt, a book by Dorothy J. Thompson. Read.
Okay, it's called Memphis Under the Ptolemies, and it says, as so often in cities where Phoenicians proceeded, Jews also came to Memphis, drawn both by the wealth of Egypt and the haven it afforded. The attractions of the country, of its peace and plenty, were denounced by the prophet Jeremiah in the early 6th century BC. It says, Egypt, where we shall see no sign of war, never hear the sound of the trumpet, and not starve for want of bread, in Jeremiah 42. As he, or Jeremiah, attempted to dissuade his countrymen from joining earlier Jewish immigrants in Migdal, Taphanes, Nov, and the district of Pathros, these earlier immigrants were idolaters, worshipping the Queen of Heaven and unaffected by Josiah's reforms in the year 622 BC.
You can just stop there. We will never completely read a complete slide. Otherwise, you will be hospitalized. So these are some precepts we are laying. We already know it's written in the Bible. We will show you. This is coming from the sources, how it has been the custom of Israel from everlasting to always migrate and go towards Egypt. To always migrate and go towards Egypt in times of trouble, in times of necessity, in times of need. They would always migrate and go towards Egypt, right? And just like the brother showed you last week, because these lessons, they should be listened to together. How the Israelites and eventually the Egyptians, they became as one people. They became as one people through the mingling, to the point where you could no longer discern between an Israelite and an Egyptian and an Ethiopian by physical features only, right? So this is the one reference. We are continuing. Now, continue reading. It is well known and documented
that groups of Israelitish people have from time to time journeyed into the Upper Nile country. The Egypto-Assyrian defeat by the Babylonians or Chaldeans in around 600 BC caused massive migrations of ancient Assyrians, Arameans, Phoenicians or Canaanites, Philistines, Israelites, Moabites, Ammonites, and Elamites. These migrants first settled in various regions of Upper Egypt near the border of Meroe, causing the original Kemetic stock to begin migrating west, establishing Nok, and south to modern-day South Sudan, Kenya, Uganda, etc., and establishing the Nilotic peoples. Subsequently,
you can skip. Let me see. We will be skipping a lot because of time, but because it is precept. Sorry, just continue reading.
Subsequently, the Medo-Persians and Greece would station more Israelites, Phoenicians or Canaanites, Moabites, Ammonites, and Arameans in Upper Egypt as laborers and at military garrisons. As the Greco-Roman era began to take place and culminating with the fall of Jerusalem in 70 AD, many of these groups migrated in mass to Meroe. Meroe, or also known as Kush and Nubia, was an ancient kingdom in modern-day northern Sudan that existed as a state from the year 2000 BC to around 350 AD or current era, when it was sacked by the Aksumite kingdom in modern-day Ethiopia. From the year 350 AD to about 500 AD, it existed as a weaker, disintegrated state. Around 500 AD, due to the pressure exerted on Nubia by the Aksumite kingdom of Ethiopia, Nubia was shattered, and the Yoruba, the Igbo, the Akan, the Mande, the Temne people moved west and establishing small trading kingdoms.
These are all things we are reading. It will all make sense in a while, but you are seeing the migration of the people happening often. One of the biggest reasons why you will see a large migration, especially in the latter times of these centuries, it will be because of the Muslim or Arabic invasion, which will really force and push the blacks, which were already spread over the whole of Africa and what they now call the Middle East, to concentrate themselves all the way towards the southern to the western borders of Africa. It's because of the Muslim invasion, which was one of the final drops and the reason why there was this great migration, which we will give it a name in a few slides. So we are continuing. So after the next slide, please.
After the defeat of the Egypto-Assyrian forces at Carchemish in Syria around 600 BC, numerous deportees followed the fleeing Egypto-Assyrian troops to the Nile Valley before continuing their migration into Sub-Saharan Africa.
Remember that, into Sub-Saharan Africa. So continue from recent historical
research. It appears that a number of West African policies were founded by refugees from the collapsed Assyrian Empire around 600 BC. Members of the German Culture Historical School were convinced that states in West Africa originated in pre-Roman times as a result of Near Eastern or Mediterranean influences.
So below we have the source from Dirk Lange, but I want you to especially read the last paragraph. This vast movement
of diffusion of Near East or Mediterranean influences all over Africa can be attributed to the consecutive migrations of Israelites into Africa.
And the earliest movements
of diffusion are known as the Bantu expansion.
How is it known?
The Bantu expansion.
Another word for it is the Bantu migration. So you will find, if you only need to type in Bantu migration on whatsoever you are, you will see that there is a movement of the people. There is a movement of the people. There is a movement of the people. There's a movement of the people. However, when you look at that whole Bantu migration, right? First, let's take another precept before I'll explain that more. So Israel's migration into Egypt, because as we've just read from the reference, it says this movement of people, it is nothing else but the movement of Israelites coming from the eastern or the Middle Eastern regions going towards Sub-Saharan Africa. Another term for it is they called it the Bantu expansion or the Bantu migration. So let's take another precept. The Israelites became a nation
in Egypt or Kemet. Israelites always fled to Egypt or Kemet. For example, Jeroboam, Uriah, and Jesus or Yahushua.
Exactly.
2 Kings 25:26. And all the people, both small and great, and the captains of the armies arose and came to Egypt, for they were afraid of the Chaldeans. Jeremiah 43:5-7. But Johanan, the son of Kareah, and all the captains of the forces took all the remnant of Judah that were returned from all nations whither they had been driven, to dwell in the land of Judah, even men and women and children and the king's daughters, and every person that Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, had left with Gedaliah, the son of Ahikam, the son of Shaphan, and Jeremiah the prophet, and Baruch, the son of Neriah. So they came into the land of Egypt, for they obeyed not the voice of Elohim. Thus came they even to Taphanes.
So these are the things. So once you begin to understand the origin of these people, and you begin to read the prophecies of Jeremiah, Isaiah, where he says, woe unto them that will have their trust in Egypt. It ought to make sense. But if you are thinking of Ashkenaz, you will read that prophecy and you will make spaghetti out of the prophecies of Elohim. You make toasty out of the prophecy, because you won't understand anything. But once you put the right people in the right context, it begins to make sense. There is a pattern of Israelites always moving into Nubia, moving into Cush, moving into Egypt. They have been doing it from ever since. So these are some of the precepts. So now we are going. We have established that. Now, origin of these people known as the Bantu.
Mhm.
Yeah. So the term
Bantu has gone through various shifts in meaning. In its indigenous sense, it relates to kinship between numerous African languages in Sub-Saharan Africa, stretching from Nigeria in the west all the way to Uganda in the east. In anthropology, the term was used to refer to the people that spoke these Niger-Congo languages.
So the Bantu people, all of their languages combined, it is known as the Niger-Congo. These are the Niger-Congo languages, because that is how far their kingdom stretched, right? So Abantu or Bantu,
as it was used by the colonists, is the Zulu, Kongo, and Central African word for people. It is the plural of the word umuntu, meaning person, and is based on the stem ntu, plus the plural prefix aba. This original meaning changed through the history of the Niger-Congo people, but in its origin, it means the head of the people, or simply put, the people.
So sources there. So we will get there. Let's go to another reference, because I gave you one reference from this Rosenberg guy. You know he's an European, but we will continue. Because of time, we'll be jumping. Let's go to another slide. Still dealing with the origin of the Bantu. So the word Bantu,
from the Proto-Bantu root ntu, means person or people. The word Bantu or Bantu in the Neter, I guess, or it means soul of the gods. And then it says Genesis 1:27.
So the reason why I'm giving you this source is because we will give you sources that even predates languages like Zulu and Kikongo. So what we have just read here is called the Mata Nater. Mata Nater is Proto-Bantu. So Proto-Bantu is even older than what we call today Kikongo. Every language where you see normal letters A, B, and C is not old, it's modern. So we'll even take one step back, right, to the ancient times of hieroglyphs. And selves in the ancient time of hieroglyphs, when you look to the right, you see the ancient language. And there you see the meaning of the terms Bantu. So first you see the Ba, right? And then Ba means what? Look close to the 228. Ba means, if you go down 3 regels naar beneden naar helemaal naar rechts.
Soul.
Ba means soul. And that it also means might, power, strength, courage.
Okay.
And then the Ntu means?
It means those who. Those who, and it also says gods and standen.
No, standen is the reference.
Okay.
So it means those who, but also means God.
Yeah.
So then read what is written above, 1862. Applied to the Equatorial and
Southern African language group in the 1850s by German linguist Wilhelm Heinrich Emanuel Blake, from native Bantu or mankind, from Ba, plural, Ba, plural prefix, and Ntu, meaning a man or person. Bantustan in a South African context is from 1949.
So if you look at the ancient hieroglyphs, you see that it has several meanings. It also means the soul of a god. It means the soul of a god, or it means the head of the people. So then I wrote down how it is linked to Genesis 1:27.
And Adam was made in the image of Elohim. And Elohim breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. Thus Adam became the living soul, or the soul of Elohim.
Or the soul of Elohim.
Which means Bantu.
Which is what it all means. It means the original man, the man who received the soul coming from Elohim. That is why he's the head of all the peoples. And if you also look in some of our languages, I think it is in some languages where they still have the word Ba, which represents the soul. I think even for me, I think is it not in Randy's country, the Suriname? Sometimes they say it is in Maba or so, right? So a bakra. So even in some languages, they still have the root essence of that word ba. It means the soul. It literally means the soul. So that word Bantu, if you look at it from the Zulu perspective of the Kongo, which is the language now, it means the head of the people. But if you go back a century earlier even, or 1,000 years earlier, it means the souls of the gods. That is what that means. That is what that means. So we are continuing. We don't need to read this, where they spoke about Adam, how he was a brown man. We already covered that one. So now we are jumping. We made a connection between the Bantus, Adam, the original man, why Bantu means the head of the people. But now we will look into another reference because we are jumping. We still have to identify who the people are. So first, on the right, we know the dictionary of the Zondervan, where it says Ham.
Ham, reading the yellow part, he became the progenitor of the dark races, but not of the Negroes, but of the Egyptians, the Ethiopians, the Libyans, and the Canaanites.
So they are telling you how the dark races came to be. And they are telling you about Ham and how there were other people that fell under Ham. But they tell you that when it comes to these black people, not all black people are the same. That's why I made the introduction. And that is why I said what I said during the introduction. Not all black people are the same. Not all of the black people are the same. Looking at the picture, you will see a picture of a person coming from Egypt. You see how he looks. Then we have the picture of people coming out of Libya or Put. You see how they look. On the right bottom, we have an example of a Nubian or an Ethiopian. You see how they look. And then on the left bottom, we have the picture of a Bantu from the Zinga tribe. And you see how they look. There are minor differences to how they look. One of the biggest differences is Bantus don't have soft hair, which is one of the major differences. Bantus generally don't have soft hair. They have woolly, hardened hair. And usually Bantus are women, their hairs don't grow long. When it reaches a certain stage, it's as if someone just comes and their hair usually don't really grow long. There are certain features with the face, stormy looking faces. Usually the broader nose, the thicker lips. Those are some of the key attributes of the Bantus. When you begin to compare them with other children of the Hamites, you will see those usually slimmer faces, usually taller, usually softer hair. And the more you go towards the east, the more you begin to see that effect. So there are differences. But now let's take another reference coming from another dictionary. This is from the Standard Bible Encyclopedia, coming from 1939. And it is the entry point for the word ruddy or admoni. And it says
ruddy or admoni, Adam, verbs Adam and eruthriao means to blush. And it says ruddy is the form taken by the adjective red when used as a term of praise of the human skin. And this is its use in the Bible. The Hebrew and Greek words are all usual words for red or to be red. The dark-skinned Hebrews found great beauty in a clay complexion.
This is from a dictionary, yeah? An official dictionary, 1939. So 2 dictionaries, not made by us, claiming and telling you the color of the people. Yet we are mad, but we are continuing. So we just told you how the origin of the Bantus, the origin of their name. We looked at 2 dictionaries telling you that the people were of color. However, we reached an interesting point where we said, even though you can find them in what is Africa today or the Middle East at a certain point, however, Africa, as we said in the introduction, it has so many nations. It is culturally the most diverse. So where in Africa will you find them? What we just read in the Zondervan dictionary, it says Ham is the father of the blacks, the Hamites, the Cushites, the Egyptians. It says, but not
The
the Negroes. So if you then look at the map of Africa, we have to find where are the Negro people, who are also known as the Bantus. Where are the Negro people? So we wrote down that the termination ger
was a generic word applied to all rivers and waters in North Africa, as well as the prefix ni. Both were derived from the Shemitic and came through the Phoenicians to the Greeks. By a not unnatural error, the word became connected with the epithet Niger or nigger.
So there below you find the source. This is simply confirming what the dictionary guy said, because the word Niger in itself is also Shemitic of origin and not Hamitic. So in other words, the etymology of Niger
is Shemitic in ancient origin.
Mhm.
Niger or Niger means carpenter and or herald.
So herald is also another word for a king. Herald is another word for a king. Mhm.
Is equated with the Sumerian Nagar and the Akkadian Nagiru and the Ethiopian Negus.
Especially if you go to Ethiopia, the kings of Ethiopia still have the title,
Negus.
the Negus. They still have that title because, as you know, Ethiopia is closely linked to the Aramaic language, so they still have the ancient Semitic roots. So yeah, I don't like the word nigga. Hey, life, negus. It's life. So when you then look at the map, you will see that there is a place there called Negro land. There is a place there called Negro land. So you are beginning to make a distinction between all the other African races. We have the place there, the reference and the map, so you can check for yourself. In yellow, that's where the Negro land is. Just that I can't zoom in, but it's live. So let's go to the next slide. So now let's look at DNA. This one will take just 2 minutes. Everybody knows this, but we'll just go to it. So the expansion of the Bantu-speaking people,
EBSP during the past 3,000 to 500 years is an event of great importance in the history of humanity. Anthropology, archaeology, linguists, and in recent decades, genetics have been used to elucidate some of the events and processes involved. Although it is generally accepted that the EBSP has its origin in the so-called Bantu homeland, situated in the area of the border between Nigeria and the grass fields of Cameroon, and that it followed both western and eastern routes, much less is known about the number and dates of those expansions, if more than one. Mitochondrial or Y chromosome and autosomal DNA analysis have been carried out in attempts to understand the demographic events that have taken place. There is an increasing evidence that the expansion was a more complex process than originally thought, and that neither a single demographic event nor an early split between Western and Eastern groups occurred. What is clear, however, is that this Bantu migration started about 5,000 years ago and lasted until about 2,000 years ago.
Just stop there. And that is the issue, Whilst the prophecy says that we are a people lost and spoiled, and that we will forget even who we were. Many Africans are so proud. Yeah, really, people of slavery, you descendants, you Americans, you are lost. You don't know who you are. At least we know who we are. But if you ask most of the so-called Africans, where were you guys before independence? Many don't even know. Many Africans, their history stops around the year 1950. And sometimes Europeans look at us, they're like, these people are so foolish. Almost every history you'll see from 1950, this country, just go to Wikipedia, put an entry of Ghana or Kongo, Cameroon. You always see from 1950, they had their independence. But that is all that most sources say. And that is also one of the things that all of us know. Before independence, we don't really have a clue as to who we were, Many people, especially black people, it is as if their life started with slavery and their life started with independence. It is as if nothing ever happened before independence, before slavery. We are oblivious to the fact. Just ask your father, Pa, around the 1800s, who were we? He doesn't know. He will tell you we were climbing trees like monkeys. That's what he will tell you. Around the 1800s, we were sitting in a hut and we were doing ooga booga, and we were eating humans. That is what they will say. We were praying to the bushes and we were eating bananas. That is what they will say, because that's what the Europeans have taught them. Before those times, before slavery, before independence, it is as if we were in a black hole. And Christians, especially Christians, they will say, oh, we thank God for slavery. We thank God for Christianity. Because if it was not for Christianity, we would still be worshiping the gods of the forest and the wood.
Sickness.
Hey, now, and that is because that's why you don't understand. Christianity is a slavery and it is a racist religion. It is a racist religion. What it does is it makes you hate your history. You can make statements like, oh, I don't want to know nothing before Jesus. I don't want to know nothing before Jesus. Before Jesus, we did not even exist as a people. All we did was juju and ancestral worship. But we will show you with books and references that it is not true. So because of that, you can continue reading. Now jump to where it says, in order to track the migration of these people.
In order to track the migration of these peoples, we only need to follow their DNA trail of E1B1A, the Y chromosome haplogroup. This haplogroup is exclusive to the individuals of Sub-Saharan Africa, with exception to the Khoisan, Nilotic, Kushites, and Berbers. The other subgroups in Africa being mixed and can therefore fall in one or the other.
So you see, now they are starting to make a difference between all the people in Africa. That's why when you look at the map, everywhere you see E1B1A, those are the Bantu people. And you will see where they are specifically located. That is why we say the Bantus are synonym to Sub-Saharan Africa. And you will see that E1B1A is spread over Sub-Sahara, but somewhere you will also see the A2, the A3, the E1B1B, the B2, which are the pygmies, the E1A. So you will see all manner of things in the same continent. That is why we told you that when we are speaking about the Bantu, they are a specific subgroup in Africa, but they are not all Africans. They are a specific subgroup in Africa. Now, we are jumping now. This haplogroup, yeah, we don't have to speak about that haplogroup. So, or maybe we do have to read it. No choice. This is too much. So, I get next slide. Jump to the text where it says, which one? Hey, life. So which one? Hey, just read. Just read. I won't interject. Just read.
Haplogroup EV38, also known as E1B1AV38, is a human chromosome DNA haplogroup. EV38 is primarily distributed in Sub-Saharan Africa, and EV38 has two basal branches, which are EM329 and EM2. EM329 is a subclade mostly found in East Africa, and EM2 is the predominant subclade in West Africa, Central Africa, Southern Africa, and the region of the African Great Lakes. It also occurs at moderate frequencies in some parts of North Africa.
At moderate frequencies, in some parts of
Northern Africa, West Asia, and Southern Europe. The ancestor of haplogroup E is haplogroup DE.
So jump to haplogroup DE. It migrated into
Africa as part of a massive migration from the so-called Middle East.
And that is why this is so important to understand. It's because some people, when we will jump into the limbas and stuff, and they will say we have confirmed DNA, some people will be like, hey, this makes no sense. If we are the Israelites, as they say, and we have E1B1A and they have found it, how can they also found it in the Ashkenazim? What you don't understand is they are not taking it from the people that are there now. What they are telling you is they have excavated, or as they say, they took bones from ancient times of that region, and they found the E1B1A around that time, and they are now able to find it in Africa at this time. They don't take I see Randy's shaking his head. Yeah, it's live. That's why you have to understand European speech. If you don't understand European speech, especially with the DNA, you will mess up. That is why you have to read this. It says haplogroup DE migrated into Africa
as part of a massive migration from the so-called Middle East.
But this migration happened 1,000 years ago. They migrated from there to where Africa is now. That is why they are saying this E1B1A, it is predominantly in Africa. It is predominantly there, and in lesser degrees, it is found now where? In the Middle East. But they are telling you that the original stock of this E1B1A, it migrated from Middle East and it came into Africa. That's what you have to understand. So modern so-called Sub-Saharan Africans,
or Bantu and Niger-Congo peoples, formed from indigenous Paleo-African groups like the Sun and Twa, and intrusive Eurasians or basal Eurasians and ancient North Africans.
That is all I wanted you to know. And then we jump to the next paragraph. Because the mutations
that define haplogroup E were observed to be in the ancestral state in haplogroup D, and haplogroup D at 55K1A was considerably older than haplogroup E at 31K1A. Hammer concluded that haplogroup E was a subclade of haplogroup D and migrated back to Africa. The study suggests a back migration into Africa and a following admixture of the native Africans with immigrant people from Asia. People with haplogroup E migrated back to Africa with other Eurasian haplogroups such as R1b, according to Cole.
So that is all that it's just telling you about how it mingled, but I wanted especially to explain so that you may understand how the link will then be made later on with the limbas and stuff. Otherwise, that's where you will mess up. It will be like, I don't believe this. So we will be jumping. These two slides are not relevant now, except that I wanted to show you that the northern part, Put, Mizraim, Kush, these people are not considered to be Bantus. However, they are considered to be Africans. But the Bantus, especially in our modern day and age, they find themselves specifically in Sub-Saharan Africa. That is why you will see, for the people that were watching the World Cup and stuff, when you read the commentaries and you see the Egyptians and the Libyans and they are speaking, they always make a difference between North Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa. These Arabs and stuff, they don't consider themselves as you because they know they are not you. They make a distinct difference between them, North Africa, and Sub-Saharan Africa. Sub-Saharan Africa is where you find the Bantu people. So we are continuing because especially this narrative about the Bantu migration, what you have to understand about the European is they are the master of lies and they are the master of fabricating stories or twisting up stories. Because what they will usually tell you is the Bantu migration, and then you will look at the slide, they will tell you how the Bantu migration is a migration of the Bantu people from West Central Africa towards Cameroon. That is what they usually say, right? So read for us what it says. The Bantu expansion is
a major series of migrations of the original Proto-Bantu language-speaking group who spread from an original nucleus around West Africa and Central Africa across much of Sub-Saharan Africa. The linguistic core of the Bantu languages, which comprise a branch of the Niger-Congo family, was located in the adjoining regions of Cameroon and Nigeria. However, attempts to trace the exact route of the expansion to correlate it with archaeological evidence and genetic evidence have not been conclusive. Thus, although the expansion is widely accepted as having taken place, many aspects of it remain in doubt or are highly contested.
It's not that it remains in doubt or just highly contested. They are just trying to muddy the waters so that you will be confused, so that you will not understand. That is all that they are doing. So continue reading.
The expansion is believed to have taken place in waves between about 3,000 and 2,000 years ago, approximately 1000 BC and the year 1. Linguistic analysis suggests that the expansion proceeded in two directions. The first went across, and the second, and possibly others, went south along the African coast into Gabon, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Angola, or inland along the many south to north varying rivers of the Congo River system. The expansion reached South Africa probably as early as 300 AD.
So I wrote down that this is a half
truth. The other half of the truth is that they were somewhere else first before reaching Cameroon and Nigeria and Sub-Saharan Africa in general.
That's what you have to understand. So when you look at this map, where they say how the migration took place, how the people started from West Central Africa and then began to go towards the south and towards the west, that is a half truth because they are omitting that other part of Africa, which they are refusing to call Africa, but they are omitting the fact that based upon history, the Bantus were also there. But that is where they don't want you to think of, because once you can connect that dot, you'll be like, oh, so it means that all that other part of the Middle East was actually nothing else but a part of Africa. Because Africa was much larger, much bigger than that. And the people were migrating from what we call Sub-Saharan Africa, North Africa, towards what they now call Egypt, Israel, what they call it now, Arabia, Yemen, Midian, all these areas, they were the same type of people living there. But they want to exclude the Middle East from Africa, and now they keep the Bantu migration simply between Cameroon and Niger, which is a lie. Which is a lie. So when you think about the Bantu expansion, don't just stop, yeah, we went from Cameroon. No, we are also going to look at the other side of Africa that they don't speak about. So on the right, we drew a far better map, which shows you that it did not simply stop from Niger to Cameroon, but the eastern part of Africa, or beyond the Suez Canal, as they call it today, that is where they also came from, and they were going to and fro, to and fro, to and fro. The expansion was much wider than simply within the continent of Africa itself. So Rudolph Windsor says,
author of Babylon to Timbuktu, said in his book on page 120, the Black Jews who migrated to the Sudan from the north.
From the where?
From the north, converged with the Jews or Hebrews migrating from the eastern Sudan to the countries of the Niger River. There is much proof and still much more to be revealed by scholars that there existed prior to the slave trade and subsequent to it many tribes, colonies, and kingdoms in West Africa.
So he's saying there is much proof. That is why we have been able to, by the mercy of Yah, also find so many references. But unfortunately, this is not public. This is not given to the public domain. You go to Wikipedia, it shows you that small migration from Niger to Cameroon. They're not telling you the other side of the story. So we are continuing. Now, still dealing with their origins, it says that the contention has been made
that the extraneous element of the Bantu was derived from tribes of Israel, which were first carried away to Babylon, as related in the scriptures, and who afterwards, in whole or in part, migrated through Egypt into equatorial Africa. and through mingling with native tribes upon whom they imposed much of their own religion and customs, gave rise to the people now known as Bantu.
Another source for you, another dagger for you. It is literally telling you where we are coming from. And that is why when we are saying Bantu Israelites and stuff, we are not making things up. We have nothing to gain by making things up. And you cannot make up 100 references. How is this possible? We are not making these things up. And the reason why you're seeing especially old references, because especially the modern day scientists, they lie. Because around those times, the 1800s, the 1900s, they felt free to tell the truth because they had us under control. And in their mind, they were like, these Negroes will never read. So we can tell all the secrets in our books. That's why they still have the saying that if you want to hide something from a Negro,
put it in a book.
You just put it in a book. You want to hide something from these people, put it in a book. So that's why we always take old references, because they were free to tell the truth then. So it is telling you how the Bantus, they migrated from the Middle East and they began to come into Egypt. And it says, and also some that were already in Egypt, they went to the, so it was free game. It was free game. And along the way, they were mixing with the Egyptians and they were mixing with the Ethiopians. It was life. So it says, after the destruction of Jerusalem,
by Vespasian in 70 AD, large number of Hebrews and Jews fled or drifted into Ethiopia and Abyssinia and the neighboring territories.
That is where you have another reference for you there. So now let's take some Bible precepts, so that we said we will show you Bible history, traditions, and everything. So Zephaniah 3 and 10, it says, from beyond
the rivers of Ethiopia, my suppliants, even the daughter of my despair, shall bring my offering.
In that day
shalt thou not be ashamed for all thy doings, wherein thou hast transgressed against me. For then I will take away out of the midst of thee them that rejoice in thy pride, and thou shalt no more be haughty because of my set apart mountain.
I will also
leave in the midst of thee an afflicted and poor people, and they shall trust in the name of Yah.
He says, I will leave also in the midst of thee from beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, afflicted
and oppressed, afflicted and poor people.
And very poor people. So when they say beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, once again, if you think about the Ashkenazim, will this prophecy make sense to you? You'll be lost.
Not at all.
You will be lost. But if you understand the Bantus and you read this, you're like, this is common sense. This is plain. When he says from beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, you know which river he's talking about. It is the Nile. Because you think, oh, Nile, it means Egypt. The Nile goes further than Egypt. The Nile goes through Egypt. It goes through Sudan. It even goes towards Uganda, Kenya. That is the Nile. And it says from beyond the rivers. So it's not saying, it is saying go further than the river Nile. And that is where you will find my people. And I will leave them there, a people poor and afflicted. Is the Ashkenazim poor? And his affliction is self-induced. So his affliction is a lie. And they are not to be found beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. But the Bantus are. So when you begin to look beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, what lies beyond the rivers of Ethiopia? What lies beyond the rivers of Ethiopia? That's what you have to think about. That's what you have to think about. And in verse 13, it says, the remnant of
Israel.
So we are continuing. Now let's look at beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. This is a letter. Pay attention. This is a letter to the 10 lost tribes of Israel. The author was
Yisrael ben Shklov
Which year?
in the year 1830.
People. Which year?
1830.
It is a letter from the Ashkenazi.
A letter sent from the Ashkenazi communities of Safed and Jerusalem to the lost tribes that they had hoped would be found by an emissary sent to Yemen in 1830. The letter informs the lost tribes of the contemporary circumstances of the world of Jewry and brings them up to date about the development of Jewish law.
Now it says the king of Israel,
who sits upon a mighty throne and who rules over the 10 tribes, whose settlement is in the land beyond the rivers of Nubia or Cush.
So the Ethiopia is also known as Nubia or Cush, who camp
according to their banners,
the tribe
of Dan, Naphtali, and Gad, and Asher, the tribe of Issachar, who understand the movements of the celestial bodies, constantly involved in Torah study, and the tribe of Zebulon, and camped at Mount Frian, and across them the tribe of Reuben, of Ephraim and Manasseh, and the tribe of Shimeon. May Hashem be with them and their king, and to our honored brothers, the children of Israel.
So people, you read the Bible, and here you have another source. These guys are saying, we are hoping to find our brothers.
So-called.
We are hoping to find our brothers who can be found in Nubia and Cush. And we know 1,000% Nubia and Cush has always been jet black. They have always been jet black. So we are continuing. Biblical precepts. It says, princes
shall come out of Egypt, and Ethiopia shall soon stretch out her hands unto Elohim.
Hosea.
Israel is swallowed up. Now shall they be among the Gentiles as a vessel wherein there is no pleasure.
Ezekiel.
And say, thus saith the sovereign Yah unto Jerusalem, thy birth.
So Elohim is telling you, you people, he's saying, as for your birth,
and thy nativity
is of the land
of Canaan.
Your father
was an Amorite,
and your mother
a Hittite.
All African nations.
Hamites, all of them.
And he's saying, are ye not as
the children of the Ethiopians unto me, O children of Israel?
If you go to Ethiopia, do you see white people there? There's a reason why they could not colonize that nation. And why they did not mingle so much with that nation. When you go to Ethiopia, do you see white people there? Elohim is saying, hey, you Hebrews, are you not like
the children of the Ethiopians unto me?
Have I not brought up Israel
out of the land of Egypt,
and the Philistines
from Caphtor,
and the Syrians
from Kir?
These are precepts. But if you think of Ashkenaz, you will never understand these prophecies. But once you find who Egypt is, once you find who the Bantus are, you read this, you're like, this is perfect sense. This is perfect sense. So we are continuing. Juderum terra. At this day also,
the Abyssins affirm that upon Nilus towards the west, there inhabits a most populous nation of the Jewish stock under a mighty king. And some of our modern cosmographers set down a province in those quarters, which they call the land of the Hebrews, and placed it, as it were, under the equinoctial in certain unknown mountains between the confines of Abyssinia and Kongo.
So when Elohim is saying from beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, I already told you, it goes through Kenya, which borders towards the Congo. And so when you read that verse, from beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, those are the places that he's mentioning. Those are the places that he's mentioning. And it just so happens to be that Edom, once again, made a map. And the map that Edom made came from this Italian guy. This was in the 1588. Guess what? Before slavery. This was in the 1588. And what did he say in his map? Next slide. So because it's a PowerPoint, I can't really zoom in. You just type in the title there. You will find that map online. You zoom in the middle part from beyond the rivers of Ethiopia towards the abyssins of Kenya, Congo. You found there a place, and he wrote down there, Juderum Terra. What does Juderum Terra mean?
Land or ground of the Jews or Hebrews.
Terra means earth or land. Juderum means Jew. So the lands of the Judites, or the lands of the people of Judah, the land of the Jews. That is what it means. And this is from beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. It is another map for you, which we did not create. But that is where Elohim said, you will find the remnant of my people. And it just so happens to be that that is the place where the Bantus are. That is the place where the Bantus are. That is where we are making the claims that we are making. So we will continue. Then I took another slide, and this is modern day Africa. The slide before that was ancient, 1588. This is modern Africa. And this is where you will find the Judeum Terra. It takes Uganda, it takes Kenya, it takes a place of Sudan, Central Africa, DRC. That is where the Judeum Terra was of the map of 1588. That is where it is, people. That is where you can find it today. So we are continuing. Another map. Ouida in West.
Ouida in West Africa, Negro land.
So Ouida,
Fida, Huda, Ouida, Judah, or Ayuda is an ancient city frequented since the 16th century by Portuguese slave traders who gave it its name. Its inhabitants were Judaic and were viewed as a remnant of the scattered tribes of Israel.
Another reference for you. So we are continuing. East of the Great Popo.
Begins the Dahomey territory.
Begins the These people are heavily in voodoo. However, because they are the tribe of Dan, you can even find the reference in the Bible. I don't know what was wrong with the tribe of Dan, but the people, they love to worship the serpent god. That was one of the idols of the tribe of Dan. And Dahomey, that's what happens to mean the belly of the snake. So it is saying, east of the Great Popo
begins the Dahomey territory, guarded by the important towns of Glewe, known to Europeans by the various names of Fida, Heweda, Vida. The old writers called it Judah.
The old writers called it what?
Judah. And its inhabitants were said to be Hebrews or Jews, while neighboring river Alala, whose real name is Ephra, became the Euphrates.
So whose real name is Ephra, which is also a biblical name. But when we will deal with the subject, the promised land, that is where we will go into the history of Africa. And you will see that the name Africa is not European. I don't know sometimes we use that lie. It comes from Leo Africanus. It's a lie. That Tito Africanus, that was the nickname they gave him. That was not his original name. But that is a subject for another day, but we have to move. So Ouida, which is also found in West Africa, the people called it the tribe of Judah, or they called it the kingdom of Judah. Now, next slide. Look at this beautiful picture. So on the left, you see a black-looking king. Because in Benin, they spoke French. It's written there, Roi de Juda, which means the king of Judah. Does he look white to you, people? This is Benin, eh? Dahomey. So the reference is there, but don't mind the Negro with the European hair. I don't know why he did that. But just look at the right map. This is from Emmanuel Bowen, 1747. I have circled something very interesting. And it says there,
Kingdom of Judah.
Kingdom of Judah in Benin. Kingdom of Judah in Benin. How did it get there, people? Ask yourself. And who will you find there today? Bantus of Benin. So we are continuing. Abyssinia, at this day also.
The Abyssinians affirm that upon the Nilus or Nile towards the west, there inhabits a most populous nation of the Hebrew stock under a mighty king. And some of our modern cosmographers set down a province in those quarters, which they called the land of the Hebrews, placed it as it were under.
Oh, you already read this. Skip this. It's just another verse. It's talking about Abyssinia, Congo. So yeah, we have too much references. We can afford to skip some. So, but I wanted to zoom in into Abyssinia a bit. Why? Because you will see something. It says Cush had a son named Sheba and grandsons from Rama named
Sheba and Dedan. This Sheba is where Eritreans descend from, and Sheba is where Ethiopians come from. Sheba, Aksum, and Ethiopia. These two groups ruled over the southern Arabian Peninsula.
No, they ruled over Africa.
They ruled over the southern Arabian Peninsula.
Do you know where Arabia is? And who ruled over that place?
The Ethiopians,
which comprise of the kingdom of Sheba, Aksum, and Ethiopia. So because of time, read it.
These two groups ruled over the southern Arabian Peninsula. Also, other Kushite groups, Dedan, were native to the area as well. See Genesis 10:7. Yoktan had a son named Sheba. This same Sheba is the father of Yarub and supplanted the Kushite Sheba or Seba in southern Arabia. From the time Yoktan's grandson Yarub established the Himyarite or Arabic kingdom Saba in Yemen, around 2000 BC, to the rise of Islam around 650 AD, power switched back and forth between them and the Ethiopians.
We will really I really hope we will take some time to really deal with this lie of the house of Saud and all of those people. Can you imagine? Islam came 400 years after. Do people realize it came 400 years after Christianity? I don't know if people realize that. We give them so much power, but do you realize that they came 400 years after Christianity? The very word Arab literally means mingled. The Mongols that you are seeing now, they are not the people. When you read the people of Ishmael in the ancient times, did not the Bible say that as for Ishmaelites, they did not come from Hagar? Was Hagar not an Egyptian? So how did they look like the people of Saud now? But that is a topic for another day. But what I want to show you is, I wrote down in yellow, the Ethiopian or Abyssinian kingdom
stretched forth from Africa all the way to the inlands of Arabia until India.
And all of the inhabitants in that area
were jet black.
You have to understand that. So here I have another source for you. Another source. I told you, we just read about the kingdom of Sheba, how it was not only in Africa now, but it also stretched towards Arabia. So I wrote down, this is coming from Eldad the Danite. He said, being Naphtali,
Gad and Asher journeyed on their own to the land of Ethiopia and encamped in the wilderness until they came to their border, a 20 days journey, and they slew the men of Ethiopia. And unto this very day, they fight with the children of the kingdoms of Ethiopia.
So skip that source. So look at the source at the right. The biblical land of Havilah, land of the shepherd kings. Now, when you look at the kingdom of Cush, it is in yellow. You see, so on the right above is Israel. If you go down, you see Cush. Then you see towards West Africa, you see Havilah. And then you see on the right, the kingdom of
Shiva.
Where is it found?
Southern Arabia.
Southern Arabia. That's what we are trying to say, people. All of that area was Africa. And Abyssinia, as we know it, is not just, when you think of Abyssinia, you only think of Ethiopia now. No, it was one of the biggest empires in Africa, stretching from Central Africa all the way to Arabia, when you begin to reach the outskirts of India, Hindustan, Pakistan. And just so that you know, Hindustan also simply means land of the blacks. But that is another tough one. So that's why when you read Abyssinia, that's what you have to understand. But we are continuing now. So Sudan, Al-Idrisi.
The famous Muslim geographer Al-Idrisi, born in Ceuta, Spain in the 12th century, wrote extensively about Jewish or Hebrew Negroes in the Western Sudan. Ibn Khaldun lived in the 13th century. A respected authority on Berber history testified about Black Hebrews of Western Sudan with whom he personally interacted.
For your information, the people you are seeing on the picture, these are the Mongols. These are the mixed Arabs. These are not the original people. These are mixed. These are mixed people. And they are testifying about the Black Jews of Western Sudan with whom they interacted. But we are moving. So this is Sudan. So the Jews of Bilad al-Sudan.
The Jews of Bilad al-Sudan describes West African Jewish communities connected to known Jewish communities who migrated to West Africa as merchants for trading opportunities. Various historical records state that at one time they were present in the Ghana Empire, the Mali Empire, the Moshi Kingdoms, and the Songhai Empire, which was then called Bilad al-Sudan, or Land of the Blacks.
So that is all that Sudan once again means. So Sudan means land of the black, and there are even other references where they say so Sudan means that Judah part of it means Judah, but I have not found it, but I think Justice had a reference, but we're continuing. So now we are moving, and I will go to some of the countries. It's now 13:19. I think we'll be done in about an hour. Yeah, about an hour. So Ethiopian Jews, and this is quick because everyone knows this already about Ethiopia, but we'll just show you. So once they were kings,
a 500,000 strong, they matched their faith with fervor and outmatched the Muslims and Christian tribesmen around them to rule the mountain highlands around Lake Tana. They called themselves Beta Israel, or the House of Israel, and used the Torah to guide their prayers and memories of the heights of Jerusalem as they lived in their thatched or hatched huts in Ethiopia. But their neighbors called them Falashas, or the alien ones.
So their neighbors called them the strangers or the alien ones.
The invaders. And even 300 years of rule, even the black features that matched those of all the people around them did not make the Hebrews of Ethiopia secure governors of their destiny in Africa.
So they are telling you about the Falashas, which were black Hebrews in Ethiopia. The source is there, but skip that source. Now read something which is coming from the Jewish virtual library. This is their library. Now they say for centuries,
most of the world was unaware that a community of black Jews.
Can you see the hypocrisy? They are saying as if, no. They are literally saying for centuries, so-called most of the world, it's only the people that think of Ashkenaz. They were unaware. But the Ashkenazis, the people of Africa themselves were not unaware. So he's saying for most of centuries, most of the world was unaware that a community of
black Jews existed in Ethiopia. Even after contacts had been made between European Jews and later Israeli Jews, knowledge of the Ethiopian Jews was scant. It was not until the early 1980s and the famine in North Africa that drove many Jews or Hebrews to seek an escape route in Sudan that the Beta Israel became widely known. At the same time, the Ethiopian Jews were equally unaware that Jews lived anywhere else and were at least as shocked to learn of the existence of white Jews.
That is what I wanted to highlight. They are Jews, and they said when they came out, they were shocked to see what? White Jews. They were like, what happened? Because they knew, because they come from the Queen of Sheba and Solomon and David. So they knew how their people looked. So when they came outside and they saw white Jews, they were shocked. Van, hoe is dit mogelijk? Now you see the reference. It is the Jewish Virtual Library. So, are they lying
About themselves.
about themselves? So let's continue. Now, Cameroon.
So the Beti are composed of 20 Bantu-speaking peoples living mainly. Oh, I have a question. Maybe for people for whom this is new, like we just spoke about Abyssinia, Ethiopia, Sudan. In the beginning, you said that those people are not actually Bantu peoples, but you still took a lot of time to talk about them. So why did you talk about them, and what is the connection with the Bantus that we are about to discuss now?
The connection with the Bantu we're about to discuss now is, first of all, they are nowadays a mixed people. But the reason why I'm speaking about Ethiopia, Abyssinia, is because, especially Abyssinia, it is key that you understand where Abyssinia was, but that you also understand how big Abyssinia was. Because the connection to especially Yemen and Arabia lies in you knowing how big Abyssinia was. Because all of those people, ancient Arabs, etc., they were the same people coming from the kingdom of Abyssinia, but they were all black. That's why we spoke about Abyssinia first, and then we are jumping into modern day Cameroon, etc. That's why I made the link with Abyssinia. And also because of that key verse, from beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, there my people would come. That's why we mentioned them.
Okay.
Yeah? Okay. So Cameroon.
The Beti are composed of 20 Bantu-speaking peoples living mainly in Cameroon, Gabon, Equatorial Guinea, and Sao Tome and Principe. There are two main divisions, the Beti and the Fang, which are the northern and southern division of the same people.
Now, the Fang people
came from Egypt.
Before they settled
in Egypt,
they came
from Mesopotamia,
which is part of Abyssinia. That's why the link every time is. So the Fang people came from Egypt. Before settling Egypt, they came from Mesopotamia. This is why the Fang man is
a black Jew.
Because of time, we will just stop there. And then you see their migration. Europeans will tell you Nigeria-Cameroon, but that part of Abyssinia, they will never tell. Because that is the missing link. But now you see from this map, from this book, you see how they came from the Middle East as well, settled in Egypt, and then went to Cameroon. That is their migration. So we are jumping. And the funny thing is, the next slide, everywhere the Bantus were, they will always leave trace of Israel. Because when you go to Cameroon, what is the name of their capital?
Yaoundé.
So people, we cannot make this up. Why would people who have nothing to do with Israel, why would they call their capital Yaoundé?
Yahoo.
Why would they call their capital Yaoundé? Did they smoke something? No. So when you take the modern day map, Cameroon, their capital is called Yaoundé, which is coming from the lexicon H306, which means
Yahuda.
Yahuda. And then you take the map by Emmanuel Bowen, 1747, which is close to Gabon. There was found what? The kingdom of
Judah.
So you see, people. So even though the modern day African cannot explain to you what happened, there are still some traces of what happened. So that is Cameroon for you. Just give me the answer to the question, why do they call their capital Yaoundé if they have nothing to do with Israel? We are continuing. Now the Mandingas. The Mandingans,
who are now broken up into many rival petty states, are excellent husbandmen, but display their remarkable talents chiefly as traders. They have been compared to the Saracoles, or the Hebrews or Jews of West Africa.
That is all that I want. Every time I hear that, I stop. That is all that I want. That's the Mandingas for you. We are continuing. The Senegal or the Bani Israel. So the tree is holy grounds.
Says Fadiga, the president of this remote settlement of 4,000 souls.
Our Jewish
ancestor Jacob planted it when his people first settled here 1,000 years ago. The lush kapot tree towers over the parched shrubbery at the edge of the Bani Israel,
a dusty
community in eastern Senegal.
a people very poor, a dusty community in eastern
Senegal.
That is the house of Jollof for you. So especially Nigeria, Ghana, Jollof. Jollof is not yours. And no, ik ben geen hater. It is coming from the Jollof people of Senegal. So a dusty community in eastern Senegal near the border
with Mali.
The residents
are Muslims. The residents, all Muslims, are members of a tribe whose name means sons of Israel. And they trace their lineage to two clans, Silla and Drame.
They say
are descendants from Egyptian Jews.
Now listen to what he says. We are all practicing Muslims.
And we don't want to become Jewish.
And he says, we don't even want that title. He says, we are Muslim. We don't even want the title of so-called Hebrews. In fact,
we don't like to talk much about our Jewish background,
but
we don't hide it either.
We know our people
came from Egypt to Somalia
and from there
to Nigeria.
So people, what is the reference? What's the source?
Timesofisrael.com.
We did not make this up. They are telling you, hey, we don't like it, but we cannot hide who we are. We are people coming from Jacob, our forefather. Actually, to be a Hebrew or a Jew, to us, it is a disadvantage because we are Muslims. However, what can we do? We are who we are. These people, when they want to go to Mecca to pray, they are not allowed. When the people see their passport, they see the Bani Israel, because Jews are not allowed into Mecca. Into South, they are not allowed. So they even want to, if you read the article, they say we want to change our passports, but we can't. So they are a recognized people known as the Bani Israel. They are poor and dusty and they don't have money. So why would they lie about this identity? It only works against them.
They don't even want it.
They don't want that, but they are who they are. So people, are you seeing this? So he said the truth of such claims is difficult to establish, but West Africa
has had documented Jewish presence since at least the 14th century.
Are you reading this, people? So when it says documented, why is this not public news? That's what you have to wonder. Why is this not public news? It says there is documented evidence. Hey, because of time, we are jumping. The reference is there. You can read it for yourself. Maybe you can contact them. If you have too much money to spare, you can send some.
14th century, but these Jews, their country existed in 1948. So 600 years before.
Hey. The devil is a liar. So Agikuyu, Kenya, the Kikuyu story,
legend has it, begins on a ridge north of the town of Muranga, south of Nyeri, amidst the misty valley carved by the Mount Kenya's melting snows. To the pre-colonial Kikuyu, Mount Kenya, known as Kirinyanga, was the seat of Elohim, or Ngai.
So the word Ngai means I am. And the people of Kenya who speak Swahili, where they also have a god who they call Sonini Nanini, which means I am that I am. Hey, people. So he's telling you their god known as Ngai, which means I am.
Ngai created Gikuyu, the first man, then pointed eastward. Build your homestead where the fig trees grow, he said. Later, he sent Mumbi to join him, and the couple established the 10 clans that constitute the House of Mumbi, as the Kikuyu are also known. Historically, the Bantu-speaking Kikuyu tribe is believed to have migrated from Kongo, together with their cousin tribes like Kisi, Kamba, and Luya.
Mhm.
Similarly, all these mentioned tribes speak Swahili, which is a Shemitic language and closely tied with the Arabic language.
Mhm.
Another tradition has it that the Gikuyu came from Abashi in Abyssinia or Ethiopia
That's why Abyssinia is key.
that belonged to the tribe of Judah, which originated from Ethiopia.
That is all that I want because of time. That is all that I want. If you then look at the two maps, one from 1722, one from 1747, it is because we are not yet talking about where is the promised land. But if you look at the two maps, where Kenya is now, there is a place there called
Zion.
people. Mount Kenya. But because so another map there, you see a place called
Zion.
this is Kenya. This is Kenya, where the great Ngai I am can be found. But because of time, we will be jumping. So let's go to the Yorubas.
Mhm. As a typical example, one can cite the historical work of the noted scholar and political leader Muhammad Bello of Sokoto in Hausa land.
Mhm.
His Infaq al-Maisur, written in 1812, attributes Middle Eastern origins from Egypt, Palestine, the Yemen, and even Persia to a number of West African peoples,
Mhm.
though for the most part without reference specifically to Ham or Noah.
Mhm.
In the case of the Yoruba, however, Bello declares them to be descendants of Canaan, and more particularly of his son Nimrud,
Mhm.
who is traditionally linked with Babylonia or Iraq.
Mhm.
He combines his conventional piece of speculative genealogy with an equally speculative venture in historical etymology, deriving the name Yoruba from that of Yarub ibn Qatan,
Mhm.
the legendary ancestor of the Himyarite kings of Yemen
Mhm.
in pre-Islamic times.
You can just stop there. Beautiful people, the Yorubas. Real Muslims, these people. However, they are ancient, more ancient than the Arabs you see now, coming from that area, from the kings of Yemen. But we will be continuing. So that's the source for you. However, Yoruba migration,
According to tradition,
to
there are
Yoruba
two
tradition, there are two
oral traditions concerning the Yoruba Jews. According to the Benai Ephraim,
Mhm.
a Yoruba Jewish population who claimed to come from the Israelite tribe of Ephraim, was said to have been driven to Yoruba land from Morocco by Muslims and eventually mingled with Yoruba people.
These black Jews
In southern Nigeria are called the Emo Yokwaim,
or
strange people,
exactly as the Falashas, by the native
Africans.
But these black Jews
call themselves Benai Ephraim, or the sons of Ephraim.
According to pure Yoruba tradition, the ancestral Yoruba
saw the Assyrian conquest of the Israelite kingdom from the 9th and the 8th century BC from the perspective of the Israelites. After the fall of Samaria in 722 BC.
You can stop there because of time. Reference once again, Derek Lang, The Great Migration, Refugees from the Collapsing Assyrian Empire. So people, and then they are telling you how they came here. They're telling you how they came here. Not all the Bantus or not all the Israelites came through Egypt. There are two roads for you to come into Africa. You can come via Egypt, that is the north, but you can also come via Yemen, which is the south. Yemen is very close to South Africa. It is very close. That's also how you can come through the motherland. But we are continuing. That was the Yoruba for you. Now the Igbos.
The first British explorers who met the Igbos of Nigeria were quick to identify them as a branch of Hebrews, according to Basden in 1938, and so simply refer to them as Hebrews or Hebos or Igbos. But during the time of the first documentation of the history of the Igbos, the early Igbos who knew very little or no English, following the pronunciation of the new version of their original name by their colonial masters, deviated from the name Evite or Ivite. Ivite Aguleri. From Ivrit, Ivite or Ihite.
So whenever we say Jew or we say it doesn't exist, Actually, it is Kabiru or it is Ivri. Ivri. That's why we also have the name Igbo, which is it's a transmutation or a corruption of Hebrew. That's where the Igbo comes from. And began to use the popular new
and foreign language of the colonialist, and so refer to themselves as Hebrew, a corruption of Hebrew, to associate themselves with the emergent new culture, the colonial master, etc.
So that is the reference for you. There is much to disclose about the Igbos, but time will come because they are very interesting and reddish people. But let's go. So this is another book. It is called The Igbo History, Hebrews, Exiles of Eri. But just read the first few lines. The kingdom of Eri
is associated with the kingdom of the entire Igbo race. Eri never had an empire of the size and status of Oyo, Benin, Sokoto, and Kanem, or Bonu Empire. Instead, Eri kingdom was founded on a banner of peace. There's not a written record of pronouncement on the mission of Eri to start the Igbo race in Eri Aka or in Aguleri. But biblical account in Genesis 46:16 and Numbers 25:15 reveals that Eri was the son of Gad, who was the son of Jacob. During a great famine which occurred in the land of Israel in the era of Jacob, Gad left Israel for Egypt along with his father Jacob and his other brothers and lived with their brother Joseph. And when Joseph was the governor of Pharaoh's kingdom,
you can stop
in
there.
Egypt,
Too much reading. It is simply telling you Igbos, Eri, Gad, Jacob. They left from Israel, migrated to Egypt, then went on until they came to what you now call Igbo land. Igbo land. Next slide. So, Randy, play this interesting Nigerian man for us. You know the minutes. So we have the references, we had the Bible, we had secular history, but now let's hear the oral tradition coming from an original Igbo man himself.
Firstly, that we all worship the same God. The origin of religion, it came from one God. I want to give you example from my ordinal tradition. The ordinal tradition came from Eri. Eri is the fifth son of Gad. Gad is the son of Jacob. Then Eri now left his abode and now came to Nigeria. He settled in Anambra State, Umuleri and Aguleri, and Eri. He now spread to all everything you know as South is Igbo-speaking nation. So this guy started from these people you call your patriarch, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Then he now deviated to Eri. So if you look at the Islam religion, if you read their books,
it's short and simple. So you can say, yeah, Chris, why are you talking about the Igbos? You're not Igbo. We are brothers. And apart from that, this is a real Odinala man. A real Odinala man. And he's telling you that, hey, don't mess with me. I know our history. We come from Eri. And Eri is, he says, your so-called patriarch because he's fed up with Christianity. But he's telling you, I know where we are coming from. So people, these are things you are seeing with your eyes. But whether you believe or not is up to you. But we are going. Next slide. So another, life is too short. So Ashkenazi testimony, they knew Hebrews were in Nigeria before Ethiopia. It says British rabbis
were already aware in the 1840s that there might be descendants of the 10 tribes of Israel in the Niger Delta. This even began before the Jewish acceptance of Beta Israel began. Evidently,
so it is telling you, even before the acknowledging of the Beta Israel, they knew about the Igbos.
Evidently, though, the Igbos, who today number around 30 million people, would be too much a political and demographic dynamite. Given the sheer number of potential Jews in Nigeria, it is no accident that Israeli authorities are hesitant to act, even as non-Orthodox rabbis from the US are undertaking full-scale missionary tours among the Igbos.
So that's why I said they are really a special people, because once the Igbos accept, once the Igbos accept who they are, that is when you will see the biggest shift when it comes to this awakening. Because there are too many Igbos. They are the key to all of our awakening. There are too many of them. And once they begin to migrate, so let's because of time, let's move. So here is another testimony of you can take just people because of time. We have too many testimonies of Ashkenaz themselves. This is another from their own website, Newsband Jewish Rabbinical Court. And this was in the year 2022. I can read the Jewish Rabbinate of the Obadiah
Alliance, consisting of Dayan Yakub de Oliveira, Dayan Eliezer, etc., has on January the 14th, 2022, recognized the Igbos of Nigeria as descendants of ancient
people.
Israelites.
Are you reading this? Are you reading this? They have recognized the Igbos of Nigeria as descendants
of the ancient Israelites.
Ruling.
The rabbinate said that the presence of Israelites along the Niger River had been known by Jewish authorities in the United Kingdoms, the Netherlands, Lithuania, and Suriname.
Hey, people, this is not funny anymore. But I want you to jump down, and read the paragraph where it says, it is interesting that the Obadiah
rabbinate addressed Igbos as Israelites and not as Jews.
That is key for you. These people, they are playing high-level games. They have acknowledged them as descendants of ancient Israelites. However, they are making a distinction between them and Jews. They also affirm that Omenana
tradition as the authentic original religion of the children of Israel.
So a European can tell you something without telling you something. But because of time, I won't go into much into this. This is another one. So this is from another source. I gave you 4 Israeli websites where they attest to the Igbos. And now it says that Nigeria on Tuesday marks 50 years since the declaration of
an independent republic of Biafra plunged the country into a civil war amid renewed tensions and fresh calls for a separate state. The main pro-independence group, the indigenous people of Biafra, and the movement of the actualization of the sovereign state of Biafra have called for a day of reflection. Among the IPOB are one of the largest ethnic groups in the Central African nation, the Igbo people, and among them is a small minority of practicing Jews or Hebrews who believe they are descendant from the tribes of Israel.
People, slowly and surely, we will awaken, but we are continuing. This is another source for you, timesofisrael.com. So take it how you want it. So now, this is another source. No, enough about the Igbos. Enough. So Igbo, Ivrit, Hebrew, Ivri. That is the true name. It's not Hebrew. It is Ivri. Yeah. So we are continuing. Now let's jump into the Ghana people. So Eldad the Danite. Read what he says. Being Nephthah. No, we already wrote. I think we already read Eldad the Danite, right? So read. It is 12 days from Aswan
to Haluan, where there are some 300 Hebrews. From there, they go in caravans 50 days journey through the great desert, which is called Sahara, to the towns of Zavila, known as Havila in the scriptures, in the land of Ghana.
Do you believe this? That's your source for you. Linking the land of Havila. Yeah? Linking the land of Havila in the scriptures with the land of Ghana. The source is there for you to read. And then I wrote down, Gold Coast is a former
British colony in West Africa known today as the Republic of Ghana. In the transatlantic slave trade era, Europeans identified the region as the Gold Coast because of the large supplies of and market for gold that existed there.
People, that's why these people, the things they know. Because why, of all the places in Africa, would you call Ghana Gold Coast? Why would you do that? Do you remember what was found in Havila? Do you still remember that Bible verse? Unfortunately, I did not put the Bible verse, but it speaks about the four rivers. It says, and then one flows towards Havila, where there is gold. People, this is sad, but there we have the link for you. So we are continuing now. Ghana, ancient Ghana
was created by Jewish settlers about 300 AD in the area west of Timbuktu in modern Mali.
I know it truly to be the fact
that in the ancient past, Ashanti people lived by Jerusalem and removed little by little to live again in Egypt, then to here.
Ose tutu.
Ajeman Prempe
Prempe. So Ashanti means
people of Ashan,
which
Ashan was the son of Judah. The T being a suffix meaning the people.
So Josiah 15:1-4-2. Blah blah. Read verse 42. Libna and Ether and Ashan. So Akan culture
and civilization is not Negro African in origin, but can be classed on the whole as Libyo-Phoenician or Carthaginian.
Whenever you hear Phoenician, it means Canaan, it means Israel. Every time you hear Phoenician, it means Canaan, it means Israel. Always make that link. Look at the majestic looking king with all the pure gold, the gold of Havila. So we are continuing because of time. So Ghana, the Akan people of Ghana
result from an ancient southward emigration of Libyo-Berbers who were cousins to the pre-Hellenic population of Greece, or maybe the Pelasgians, from the Sahara Desert oasis, and that intermarriage at Timbuktu with Niger River Negroes. In the 11th century AD, they moved still further south to what is now modern Ghana and the Ivory Coast, according to Robert
jump the second paragraph, go to the third. There is hardly any consensus
on the origin of the Akan people.
Some
of the suggestions hold that the Akans may have come from some parts of the Sudan, the old Mali Empire, Burkina Faso, and even from Mesopotamia.
And even from
Mesopotamia,
which is part of Abyssinia, where they had close connection with
Israel.
This is Mr. Dankwa and Maravich. This is further emphasized by the Ashanti
history of dividing their clans into 12 when they settled in modern Ghana.
People, just keep thinking that life is a coincidence. The Akan people
share mitochondrial haplogroups with both Sudanese and Egyptians.
Akans have ancient
Egyptian Nubian family names
such as
Tutu Ankoma,
which is nothing but Tutankhamun of Egypt, and Ankra
or Akhenaten,
which is Akhenaten, and the famous name of
Menu,
which is a very ancient name. You'll find it in India, you'll find it in Egypt, you'll find it in Pakistan, you'll find it in Indonesia, you'll find it in the places, especially where Buddha is worshipped, because the gurus are known as the Manus, which is an ancient word for prophet or seer or wise man. It is a very ancient name. So we are going, before migrating south
into modern day Ghana and Ivory Coast, their ancestors also lived in the Sahel Sudan region, which was once part of the ancient Egyptian Nubian civilization. Their Elohim is Nyame, which is a form of Yamen or Amen, an ancient Egyptian Nubian expression of divinity.
That's Ghana for you. So let's go to the Gadangwe. Gadangwe. So the Ga Dangwe. They claim to be
descendants of the Israeli tribes of Gad.
Life. Of God and
Dan. Oral history had it that Gadangme people migrated from Israel about 6th century BC through Egypt, then to Ethiopia, having been expelled or exiled by the Assyrians. This is according to the Hebrew biblical revelations.
So in Ethiopia,
they settled in the Gondar province in northern Ethiopia.
That is where they have based the Lord of the Rings, the Return of the King, Gondor Kingdom. They base all those stories from Ethiopian kings in northern Ethiopia, where the Blue Nile
originates. That is where the name Nai Wulomo, meaning high priest of the Nile, comes from.
So can we skip some? Yeah, Volta region. Yeah. So jump. Jacob had Dan
and Gad and 4 more sons. Jacob has 2 sons with Rachel. Gad's 5th son was Eri, who later formed the clan known as the Erites in those scriptures. The descendants of Eri, son of Gad, are believed to have founded the Nri kingdom around 900 AD of the southeastern and parts of the mid-western Igbo land in Nigeria, with other tribes of Levi, Zebulun, Ephraim, and possibly more.
All right, so there's the source for you, but we are jumping. So the Gadangwe, so King Aikush,
spelled Cush in Hebrew in Genesis 10:6, led the Gadangmes from Cush in Jerusalem to Ayawaso and was the founder of the Gad dynasty. It is believed that the Gadangmes kingdom at Ayawaso was the first kingdom in Ghana. It is interesting that Queen Dode or Dodi, Akabi's name, Dodi, is a Hebrew name. Also, the name of the hunter, Kadi, who found a group of people at
skip the name, not time. So Gadangwe's custom of circumcision
of their male born and their patriarch traditions further lend support to their Hebrew Israelite origin. The Homowo festival or the Passover celebrated by the Gadangme supports their claim that they are Hebrew Israelites.
And they also have a special affinity with hyssop. The priest there having this beautiful garment, and the people, that green you see is hyssop. They do almost everything with hyssop, which is extremely biblical. So let us continue. And what they are doing is the guy will pour libation, what Randy likes to do. That's what they are doing. So that's Gadangwe for you. We are now continuing. The Dan or Yakuba
of Ivory Coast.
In West Africa
lives a tribe with the name of Dan, mainly in Ivory Coast. In Ivory Coast, they count maximum 3.7 million people if we include all related tribes. The core group of the tribe of Dan counts less than 1.5 million people, 5.9% of the population.
Skip that. So apart from being known
as the tribe of Dan, they also call themselves Yakuba. Even though there is an apparent evidence of the Hebrew similarities, it is interesting to note that most of them are illiterate and have no holy books.
None at all. No holy books. Super illiterate. Based on what? I didn't go there. So this coming from the website itself. But they call themselves Dan and Yakuba.
And all of their traditions is passed on orally.
Orally. So here are some of their traditions, some info about the beliefs
and culture of the tribe of Dan. There are a number of elements that are in line with what we find in the Torah and what we know about the early days of the people of Israel.
So 1,
the name of tribe Dan, the name of their language is Yakuba.
2,
the observance of the Shabbat or the Sabbath.
3,
they believe in one Elohim. They call him Yahweh, Creator and Almighty.
4,
they follow nearly exactly the instructions of Leviticus 1 in
Jump
bringing
to
their
6.
offerings. They bring the first fruits of their agricultural work to the priest.
So those are, and these are, they say illiterate, no holy books. But these are things, who taught them? Who taught them? No holy books. They are not Christians. Who taught them these things? They happen to call themselves Dan or Yakuba. But they have no holy books. So you have to ask yourself, if there is no contact with Christianity, where do you get these things? So we are continuing. Now the kingdom of Congo. At the time. So the Bakongo people
primarily descended from Israelites who migrated to their current location in the Congos and northern Angola.
They left.
In two waves of migration. The first took place in around 650 BC when King Manasseh of Yaoundé or Judah sent a massive amount of troops to live among the Kemet or Kush border, which is Egypt and Nubia. This was to help assist the kings of the 26 dynasties in their wars with Kush.
You can skip all of that and go to once settled. They would establish the kingdom before the yellow part.
Okay, once settled, they would establish the kingdom of Congo near 12 rivers with 12 clans representing each of the 12 tribes, choosing the name Congo, meaning assembly, unity, or seal.
Now, Congo or Kanga, because the O's and the A's are interchangeable, it can mean a belt, it can mean to unify, it can mean to tell, it can mean the truth. So it literally means unity or a seal. So the reference is there, Newton Baxter, blah, blah, blah. But we are continuing. And on the right, you have their migration path. They did not come through Yemen. They came through Egypt. As I said, people can come either from the north or they can come from the south. So we are continuing. So this is the map where you see Kingdom of Makoko. And then you see the 12 royaumes, meaning they divided their people into 12 kingdoms or 12 tribes. And then it says, a part of the local trade is in the hands
of the Mavumbus, a people of grave and solemn aspect with intelligent eyes, straight or even aquiline nose, whose pronounced Shemitic type has earned for them the Portuguese designation of Judeos Pretos, meaning black Jews.
And the reason why when you're speaking about the kingdom of Congo, you will sometimes hear Cameroon, you will sometimes hear Gabon, you will sometimes hear Congo, but you will also hear Angola. It's because all of these were one kingdom. The kingdom of Congo was Gabon, Congo, Angola. That's what the kingdom of Congo was, all one people. That's why we also incorporated the Angola in it. Otherwise, we would not have the time. They were known as the Judeos Pretos, or the Black Jews. So the reference is there. And then it says, near the Congo, in Gabon.
In 1776, Black Jews called Bavumbus, or even Mavambo, or Mayomba, May or Mavumbu, lived on the coast of Luango by the river named the Rio Muni.
Reference is there. Another one, a remarkable fact
in the history of Luango or Congo is that the country contains, according to a statement which was fully credited by Oldendorp himself, a writer of most correct judgment and of unimpeachable veracity, many Jews settled in the country who retain their religious rights and the distinct habits which keep them isolated from other nations. Though thus separate from the African population, they are black and resemble the other Negroes in every respect as the physical characters.
So the reference is there. We are continuing. Now, King John II in 1492
expelled all the Jews to the island of San Tome or Sao Tome, which had been discovered in 1471, and to other Portuguese settlements on the continent of Africa. And from these banished Jews, the Black Portuguese, as they are called, and the Jews in Luango or Congo, who are despised even by the very Negroes,
are descendant. So they are despised by their own. So the review is there. It says, in the reign of John II of Portugal,
nearly 700 Jews were taken from their kin and deported to the island of Sao Tome on the west coast of Africa. This island is close to Nigeria, Cameroon, and Gabon. Escaping from Sao Tome, the Jews emigrated to the coast of Angola between 1484 and 1499.
So the reference is there for you. Now let's go to the history of Luango or Kakongo. So it says the idiom of Kakongo,
nearly the same with that of Luango, Ngoyo, Samba, and other small circumstant states, differs especially from that of Congo. Several similar articles and a great number of common roots seem, however, to indicate that these languages had a common origin, but they know not which of the two is the mother tongue. The cleverest among the natives have not the smallest idea of the origin and progress of their language. They speak, say they, as they have heard their fathers speak. It has been thought that there might be perceived some marked connections between this language and some ancient tongues, especially the Hebrew, Greek, and Latin.
People, this is no joke, but we are continuing. Too many references. So the Luba kingdom, in its emergence and the oral tradition
of the Luba starts with a figure called Kongolo,
very important name, with his followers
came into the Congo from the north. These people are believed to have been Songye by name. Jan Vanisma states that their migration could have happened around 1500 AD. The capital of the Luba kingdom was established more to the east at a place called Vibele, near Lake Boya.
Skip the references there, Jan Vansina, for people who want to read it. So it says below, the candidates for recruitment
and the stereotype of intelligence fell upon the Baluba. They began to be labeled as the Jews of Africa, like their Tutsi and Igbo counterparts in Nigeria were.
Another reference for you. This is the Luba kingdom. Unfortunately, many of these garments and traditions, they're almost lost in our nation, but life. So Congolo, as we just read, the word Congolo
derives from two Aramaic Hebrew words. Kun or kon in Hebrew means to settle or establish in Strong's H3559. Gelo in Hebrew means exile or gala in H1540. So in Hebrew, kungelo or kongelo means to settle in exile.
Let's see if we can confirm that. So northward lives, people can read this and be like, hey, you are stretching, man. What? No problem. So northward lives one of the greatest tribes
of Central Africa,
the Baluba,
who are of undoubted Shemitic origin.
Now the name Baluba
means the lost tribe.
That is literally what it means. That is literally what it means. And their language and customs
have many Hebrew affinities. Their name for...
Because of time, that's it for you. The reference is there, you can read. Now we jump back to the Bible again. 1 Chronicles 2:9. The sons also of Hezron
that were born unto him, Yeramiel and Ram and Kelubai.
And Kelubai, right? So Kelubai, which means my cage one. And then I wrote, this is from the Strongs, and I wrote down below, Kiluba.
Or Kiluba is the language spoken by the Luba people of Congo. In Congo, they are also known as the Baluba or Bayuda. They practice a ritual known as Chibao in order to keep the woman from committing infidelity.
So just keep on telling yourself that all these things are coincidences. Their names, the name of their first ruler. It's up to you to believe what you want. But we are continuing. So that was the Baluba people, the Congo people, the Bakongo people, Congo itself, general. So let's go to South Africa. I think it's 1405. I think we'll be done at 1430. I think we're not. Yeah. So okay. So South Africans of the second invasion of Bantu.
In South Africa, we have, however, more historical and trustworthy data. I've already shown that on the account of the ancient Babylonian and Sumerian elements in some of the Bantu dialects, this invasion must have come from the mouth of the Tigris and Euphrates.
References there below, the origin of the Bantu, blah, 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 from Mr. Frederik van Oort, majestically looking Zulu king. But we are continuing. Next slide. The two Bantu groups
dispersed from the great Zimbabwe, Gokomere area into what is today South Africa. This migration began to take place around 400 AD. Prior to this, both groups had migrated down from Northeast Africa via Arabia Felix or South Arabia. This initial migration from Arabia Felix or Sena took place around 150 AD and was caused by political unrest in southern Arabia.
You can pause there. If you look at the map on the right, you see they did not come from Egypt. They came through Yemen. They came through Yemen because Yemen, and once again, just look at the proximity of what they call the Middle East. Look at how close Yemen is to Africa. It is the same place, just divided by a small river. So they came through Yemen, the Zulus. So we are continuing now. This is the Nguni tradition. So West African and Bantu Israelites, the Ngoni,
The Tswana, Zulu, Xhosa, Ndebele, Kikuyu, Meru, Shona, the Lemba, the Luya, the Luba, the Temne, the Fang, the Bakongo, the Ibos, the Yorubas, the Akan, and the Mande.
So Captain Francis
Gardiner, a commander in the Royal Navy and a devoted missionary who was later to die of starvation along with missionary companions on a desert island in Tierra del Fuego, went on a journey traveling east from the Cape to Natal. Upon his first encounter with the Zulus, he took their customs to be apparently of Jewish origin, and the Zulus themselves to be of Jewish extraction.
That's all I want. The source you can find, it's there below. We are continuing. So this is once again from the horse's own mouth. Ik heb gewoon mijn dingen gelaten. Hoe is het nou? Hoe is het mogelijk? So this is from the website of World Jewish Congress. They are speaking about the DNA test, how they have, as I told you already how they test. Otherwise, they cannot make the link. They tested with the ancient bones of the people living in that area. And they found out and they saw how these Limba Jews have the DNA of the Kohanim or of the priests of ancient Israel. But the website is there. You can check it. World Jews Congress. We will not read it all because of time. But this is once again coming from themselves. This is not me. It is not you. But however, we will listen to this guy for some minutes. Listen at, he's saying it with pain. But listen at what he says. Then the Almighty build effort.
Of the ancient lost tribes of Israel, Rabbi Harry Rosenberg has launched a new educational platform, wokecourses.com, providing courses on this and many other very important and interesting topics. And we're very happy to be joined once again by Rabbi Harry from Jerusalem. Hello and welcome back, my friend.
Hey, thanks so much for having me back. It's a real honor to be here with you.
Well, thank you very much. Listen, you're doing such amazing work, and you know, the story just keeps getting deeper and deeper and deeper every time we approach this topic. And I wanted to kind of start, you know, we're talking a lot about the Lemba people today. If you could kind of put some light on the connection to the Lemba people specifically, you know, and the tribes of Israel, and you know, possible genetic links that are shown through a Cohen bloodline.
First of all, the Lemba historically has always self-identified as being from the children of Israel. We could discuss which tribe they're going to come from in a second, but just they had reached out to Israel in the early inception of the state. And a lot of people thought that this was a tribe just trying to jump on the bandwagon, as we've discussed in the past, saying, oh, it's so convenient for you to be from the children of Israel now that we have our own state. But then, you know, researchers, they noticed that there's just a lot of things that the Lemba are doing, unlike other tribes around them, that really resembled the law of Moses and other customs, traditions of the Jewish people. So they sent a team of people down there to research them. And one of the people that went was Dr. David Goldstein from Duke, who was a professor. And they did DNA testing on them and showed that 10% or so of the tribe had the Cohen Y chromosome genetic marker, which would mean that these people have a population that comes from the descendants of Aaron, the brother of Moses, who was the first of the priestly class. So that was already shocking. And then when people looked into it a little more, they realized that they're building their houses and they're doing construction and funeral burials, etc., in the style of the Yemenite Jewry. And they were able to trace back and show from the Yemenite exile communities that these Lemba came here. So some people may think that they come from the lost tribes of Israel, quote unquote, the 10 northern tribes, but it would seem they would be there from the Judean exile.
You know, this idea, you know, even of the diaspora of the tribes in Israel, really not specifically coming from the northern kingdom, but potentially coming from the Judean, the tribe of Judah, correct? And especially, you know.
Yes, we are almost there, dear people. Some of you can watch the Avengers. Some of you have watched the Justice League Jack Snyder's cut, which was 4 hours. So this is part of life. This is History Month, anyways. So we are continuing, but 12:30. No matter how far, we will just stop. So it's fine. Let's see how it goes. So now Timbuktu and Lam we can skip because of time. We will deal with this topic when we will deal with the Sea of Reeds, the real Red Sea, and we will debunk all the lies. So this is for another day. Yemenites and Palestinians. We will jump because of time. This map is very interesting. Coming from Godby in the year 1930. Everywhere where you see a blue dot is where you find Israelites in Africa. Can you imagine this? This is 1930. Everywhere where the blue dot is found, you will find descendants of Israel spread all over Sub-Saharan Africa. If you look at the left one, I think you see Lem. It says once a
Jewish colony.
You go down.
You see Jewish traces or Dahomey Jews.
Dahomey Jews. You go down, you see Benai.
Ephraim.
You go up, you see Levite.
Cities.
You go Santome, you see Santome.
Jews.
You go down, you see Mavumbu.
Jews.
You go down, you see Kabinda Jews. And then you go up, you see Yahwism.
Pre-exilic Yahwism.
So people, more than 12 areas spread over all Sub-Saharan Africa with Jewish traits. And as we have showed you from every reference, all of them were jet black, spread all over Africa. And yet you can still sit there and not believe in who you are and look at us as if we are mad when we are telling you the Bantus are the descendants of Israel. If up until this point you still don't believe, there is nothing left for us to do. It just means you will hate yourself. You cannot believe that Elohim can ever have a plan for you. You look at yourself, you're like, no, I'm doomed. And in doing so, you are also fulfilling prophecy. So anyways, Elohim always wins. So because of time, here are some of the general customs. So one,
circumcision.
For your information, if you look at the whole world, Africa circumcises their people more than the rest of this world. However, that was a sign of the. So why do Africans circumcise people? Why do they do it? So the number one continent when it comes to circumcision, Africa. Two, division of tribes. You saw it with Akan, you saw it with the Kongo people. Nigerians do it. Division of tribe, especially into 12. 3, blood sprinkling.
Upon their altars and doorposts.
4, marrying of their brother's wife.
After death.
Separation and purification.
After childbirth.
Uncleanness.
During menstruation.
New moon.
Celebrations.
7-day.
Hallowing.
Dowry.
Prices for marriage.
Taboos.
With regards to the dishonoring of the elderly.
So all of these things, we Bantus, I think it was Steph who said it from, we have so many rules, so many taboos, and we don't know where it comes from. That's the thing with us, but we have so many rules, so many traditions. Wash this, do this, don't go there, don't touch this. I think amongst the Surinamese people, we will talk about the islands next time. That's why you go into a lot of their restaurants, women don't cook, the men cook. Has to do with cleanliness and for all the purification period. So all of these traditions, we Bantus have them. But if you just go into the Old Testament, it's because I cannot link any custom to a Bible verse. Otherwise, it will take us many days. But all of these traditions, we have them. And you can find their traces in the Bible. But we are continuing. So this is an interesting quote. The native laws,
many of which seem to point back to an early Shemitic origin, dating from Hebrew domination or influence. A brother can inherit a dead brother's wives and goods, and failing a brother's and failing a brother, a nephew is chosen to succeed the deceased. To give reasons for the 101 taboos of Bantu peoples would be as difficult as to provide satisfactory explanations of the Talmud or the old Levitical laws of taboo in regard to what may or what may not be eaten.
That is all that I want. They are confirming and telling you with regards to that. And then the reference is there. Is there a question? Okay. There's a question I heard.
Let's see. The question is from Sister Amma.
Amma.
She says, but in the Lemba clip, you see them practicing Jewish traditions, but is that not still incorrect since their own culture is already the real Israelite culture? For example, the wearing of the keppel and the scarf, etc.
The problem with especially that those things is that they have their traditions as well, but they are trying to associate themselves with the people in the land of Israel. That is why many of them, they want to be recognized and acknowledged by the land of Israel. So that's why you will see they will take on some of the traditions by making the clothes and stuff. And it's also because what do we Africans actually produce, man? We don't produce things ourselves. We always import and take in stuff. That's why you see many of them, they will import and take in stuff like the Hanukkah and the tzitzit. They will take it from Israel and then they will bring it. That's the issue. You will see the same as with the Nigerian Igbos. You saw the clothing that he wore. Those are not Nigerian traditional clothing. They took that from Israel. That's because they want to be in league with the modern day Israel that is there today. That is the reason why. Yeah? Okay. Next.
Bantu religion before Christianity.
So because of time, we will read this, and then I think the slavery part. I think the brother should just take it also with next week. Otherwise, we won't have the time. So Bantu religion before Christianity. The supreme being, Nyame.
Not only of the Ashanti and allied tribes, but most probably of the whole of Negro land as well, is not the God or Elohim of the Christians, which at a comparatively recent date was superimposed on the various tribal beliefs by ministers of the gospel, but the Yahweh of the Hebrews, and that too of the Hebrews of pre-exilic times.
It's not me saying it, eh? It's not me saying this. That the Nyame of the Akans, but of the whole land of Negro, is not the Christian God, but it is the Yahweh of the Hebrews that existed before the exilic times. Source Mr. Patai. And then 2, Nzambi.
Can also be written as Nyambi or Nyambi, and is the supreme Yah or power of the Bakongos.
3, the Odinani, also called
Odinala, is the traditional set of beliefs in Igbo spirituality. It is a polytheistic and pantheistic faith. According to Odinani, all Igbo deities get their power from a supreme deity known as Chukwu. Chukwu is believed to control everything on earth and in the spiritual world.
So Mr. Proyart's History of Luango, he says, made amongst them
that they have discovered, at least in part, what constitute the object of their superstitions. They acknowledge a supreme being who, having no origin, is himself the origin of all things. They believe he has created all that is fine, all that is good in the universe, that being by nature itself, that being by nature just, he loves justice in others and severely punishes fraud and perjury. They call him Zambi. They take his name in testimony of the truth, and they regard perjury as one of the greatest crimes. They even pretend, etc., etc.
So this is from the Apocrypha, Ezra's 9:34. It says, and of the sons of Mani. That Mani has the roots of Manu. That's why I told you in many of these places you will find that name. Jeremiah's Mondis.
Amareus, Jewel, Mabdai, Peleus, Anas, Carabasian, and Anashibus, and that name, and Eliasus, and Banas, and Eliali, Shamus, Salamius, Nathanias, and of the sons of Ozora, Cesis, Ezreal, Azalus, Samitis, and Zambi.
So that also is of Shemitic origins. So we are continuing. So because of time, this punishment area, though it is very important, I will not deal with the slavery part because that can be tackled next week. But we will deal with one area of the punishment because we have 8 minutes. So we are told that the Spanish word Negro
derives from the Latin word Niger, which means black.
But we have read earlier in that dictionary of Greek and Roman blah blah that the prefix ni and the suffix ger derives from the Semitic. So figuratively speaking, however, Negro means
gloomy, dismal, miserable, afflictive, oppressive, horrible, hopeless, unlucky, bad, and wicked.
Wow. So the primitive root of Negro
is not found in the Latin word Niger, but in the Hebrew word naga. Naga, first definition, is violently to strike or punish, defeat, destroy, or smite. The second definition is a blow, figuratively, infliction, or stricken, or wound. The third, it says a workman, a debtor, to tax, harass, or tyrannize, to distress or oppress.
So in ancient times,
Nagas, Naga, Nega, and Negroes were a punished, defeated, destroyed, smitten, unlucky, wicked, and oppressed people. In other words, accursed.
So Deuteronomy 28:15, but it shall come to pass,
if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of Yah, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. In Deuteronomy 28:15.
So next slide, we will read some and then show you and then be out of here. Deuteronomy 28, and thou shalt become
an astonishment, a proverb, a byword among all nations whither Yah shall lead thee. Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field. And Yah shall send upon thee cursing, vexation, and rebuke in all that thou settest thine hand unto for to do.
Read verse 33. The fruit of thy land
and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always.
Verse 43. The stranger that is within thee
shall get up above thee very high.
36. And these shall be a sign upon thee,
as for a sign and for a wonder,
and upon your seed
forever.
So I wrote down the first major judgment
wherewith we can identify the Israelites or the Bantu people of Africa is the judgment of poverty.
That one is key. So look at this next slide for you. The world's 15
poorest countries.
Life is not fun anymore. And then of the world's 15 poorest country, read them please. Burundi, 1.
Republic of South Sudan, the Central African Republic, Somalia, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Mozambique, Niger, Malawi, Liberia, Chad, Madagascar, Sierra Leone, Eritrea, Yemen, and I don't see the last one.
I don't know what it is, but it's not Bantu. So I wrote down I circled something. 14 of the 15
poorest countries are all located in the African continent.
Why is Israel not on that list? Can someone please break down the prophetic? Why is Israel not found on that list? When Elohim said, this will be upon you for as long as you can remember. It says 14 of the 15 poorest countries in the world is in the African
continent.
Because it is prophecy. Elohim said, beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, there I will leave my remnant, a people poor. So that is poverty for you. That is poverty for you. And then I said on the next slide, Deuteronomy 23, the fruit of thy land and all thy labors
shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up,
and thou
shall be only oppressed and crushed always.
So I wrote down, whenever you see something
that doesn't make sense, yet occur and become a reality, one must then know that a spirit is involved. How is the continent that is supposed to be the richest in the world the poorest? It is because the Almighty has passed judgment on the people.
I asked Google, which continent is the richest in natural resources? And it said the
African continent.
People, hey, if you don't see that there is a spirit involved, then there is no hope. Because it says the African continent is in no doubt.
The most resource abundant continent.
Resources such as
gold, diamond, oil, natural gas, copper, uranium.
No, so Africa in itself is a mystery. It is a mystery. It is the biggest mystery ever kept because nothing makes sense in Africa. Just so that you know that there are really spirits involved in that continent. And these spirits are involved because we Bantus are a stiff-necked people. We have rejected Elohim. We have rejected his laws. We do whatsoever. And because of that, the punishment of Elohim is upon us. The punishment of Elohim is upon us. But because of time, we don't even go into slavery. Our brother will deal with that because of time. These Arabs, fire burn. But let's continue. He will deal with this next time, especially this one next time. No, let's take this. It's slavery will be next time. But just look at this lie, which he will elucidate next time. So this is the summary of all of the slavery. It says, between 1525 and
wait, I had to find the right slide.
Mm-hmm. This is the summary of the whole of slavery. It says between 1525 and
1866
in
the entire history of the slave trade to the New World, according to the Transatlantic Slave Trade Database, supposedly 12.5 million Africans were shipped to the New World. 10.7 million survived the dreaded Middle Passage. In comparison, it is estimated that 10 to 15 million people were killed as a result of actions or inactions of King Leopold against the Congolese people in the 1900s. Someone is clearly lying about the facts.
Do you understand what I'm saying here?
Mm-hmm.
These people are saying that the total number of slaves in the more than 200 years of slavery that was shipped, it does not amount to more than 12.5 million. Now, in comparison, one man, Leopold, took from one country, Congo, and he killed 15 million.
In 30 years or something.
That's why Edom and their lies. So you mean to tell me 200 years of slavery, you only deported 12.5 million people from, and not from one country. It will show you from different countries: Angola, Congo, Benin, Ghana, Nigeria, Ivory Coast. More than 10 nations. You took 12.5 million people. You deported them in 200 years. However, in around 15 years of Leopold, from one nation, you guys killed 15 million people. That's why the way these people lie, it is because they have the history books. In reality, more than 400 million Africans were sold. When it comes to their numbers, they deflated, or so many Jews were killed. When it comes to the slavery numbers, they reduced it by 90%. Just look at the wickedness of these people. But their time will come. Because of time, we have to go. So redemption of the people, then we are done. All of this is fine. I think 2 minutes we're done. So Psalm 61:31. Princes, however, shall come
out of Egypt,
and Ethiopia
shall soon stretch out her hands unto Elohim.
The kings of Tarshish
and the isles shall bring presents.
The kings of Sheba
and Sheba shall offer gifts.
And it will come to pass in that day
that Elohim shall set his hand again the second time
to recover
the remnant of his people,
which shall be left
from Assyria
and
from Egypt
and
from Pathros
and
from Cush
and
from Elam.
All these nations that we have read until Elam is what is known as Abyssinia, and from
Shinar,
and from
Hamath,
the islands
of the sea.
the Jamaicans and Surinamers and stuff. Isaiah 18 and 7 in that time shall the present
be brought unto Yahweh host
A
of a
people.
people scattered and peeled,
and from a people,
terrible from their beginning hitherto,
a nation
meted out and trodden underfoot,
whose land
the rivers have spoiled,
to the place
of the name of Yahweh host.
people. If you don't see that is the Bantus for you, then I have nothing else to say. That is why we are poor. That is why we are. Hey, so the conclusion, we have looked
At the origins and travels of the Bantu people and learned their hidden identity to be the children of Israel. We have seen how they, despite of being pulled away from left to right in the continent of Africa, they have been surviving despite of many challenges they have faced and are still surviving or still facing. Because of the heavy judgment from Elohim, we can finally understand why the black man is the most despised, most abased, and most miserable of all people when it comes to the flesh. Our only hope is the great awakening and gathering coming.
Our only hope is the great awakening and gathering coming from Elohim.
When the time is right. Until that time, we shall keep on mourning and calling unto Elohim for mercy upon his people, and that he may awaken us slowly but surely until he has gathered all of us back unto himself.
Jeremiah 4 and 2, it says, Yahudah
mourns, and the gates thereof languish. They are black unto the ground. The cry of Jerusalem is going up.
So people, we have a long way to go. But may you remember all these things. May you remember the pain and the suffering of the people of the book. May you always keep yourself, your loved ones, the nations of Africa, the descendants of the Africans, keep them all in your prayers. Instead of praying, oh, let us pray for, what do they do? Let us pray for Israel. Let's pray for the lost tribes of Israel, who are scattered abroad, that Elohim may help us all. So this was the session for today. We will see you the next time. May Yah keep you all. Shalom, shalom, shalom.